Mark Rogers TV running down every positional group across the ACC, and we've got our eye on the all-important B-back position at Georgia Tech with Joey Reaver from the Rumble seats. All right, Joey, here's the situation where we've got Marcus Marshall put up some pretty glittering statistics last year at 7.5 yards per carry and 4 touchdowns. I guess it all starts with him at this point.
Absolutely. He looks to be the favorite coming back to be the starter this fall. Like you said, the team's leading rusher last year. First time in several years under Paul Johnson that we've been able to say the team's leading rusher and leading B-back did not get to 1,000 yards, but did very well for a true freshman. Guy with great breakaway speed, some of the very best we've seen at that position under Paul Johnson. Can do a lot of different things out of the backfield, both between the tackles, running to the outside. He can get involved in the passing game a little bit. Brings a lot of high potential to that offense. For those unaware, he's actually the younger brother of Keith Marshall, recently left Georgia and I believe was drafted somewhere in the later rounds of the NFL draft. And so a lot of family history there, a lot of talent. He had some issues last year with some ball security and with blocking, especially in pass protection. And so those are some things that he's got to kind of refine and get better at as he goes. But as far as just raw talent and ability, Marcus Marshall is looking like the future of the B-back position at Georgia Tech, and more than welcome to have him there with what he's able to do. The other guy there, obviously, like you said, is Marcus Allen. He's an older guy, a little more experienced, also pretty versatile, can do a lot of things, as shown by the fact that he's played about 3 or 4 different positions at Georgia Tech. He initially came in as a B-back, then moved to linebacker, and then moved to wide receiver, and now is back at B-back. Able to do a lot of things, has struggled a little bit to get on the field in his career, but when he played last year, he did well. I believe he had 1 or 2 100-yard games. So a guy that can do a lot of things. He's obviously older, more experienced, so they might lean on him in different game situations, and might be able to take that starting job from Marcus Marshall. It all just kind of depends on what happens. But it looks like those two, the 2 main returning guys, are going to be the 2 go-to guys, at least to start out this fall. And I personally would expect Marcus Marshall to be the starter, but anything can happen with that group.
Joey, we talked about it in our A-back segment that we're looking at like 11 backs that could get into the mix in regards to August camp and battling for playing time. A couple guys that were a little bit more highly recruited a couple years ago filling out this B-back slot. C.J. Leggett, but going back to 2014, the 28th running back listed on ESPN's top 300 list. And Diedrich Mills, just in this last recruiting class, 2016, is the 55th rated running back according to ESPN. Kind of lead a group of another 4 here.
Absolutely. Like you said, Leggett was one of the more highly recruited guys, came out of North Gwinnett High School out the outskirts of Atlanta. Highly talented guy. He was probably in line to be the starter last year. If not, we go back to this constant theme of preseason injuries. I believe he tore his ACL late in spring practice, had to miss the whole year. Was thought to have been fine to go in this year's spring practice, but they held him out as a precautionary thing. He's another very highly talented, very quick guy, has good breakaway speed, and could do a lot of things a lot like Marcus Marshall could. Health would kind of remain a concern, but he's another very high potential guy that could definitely work his way into the rotation for sure. And like you said, Diedrich Mills, out of the most recent recruiting class, he was an early enrollee out of Ware County High School in Georgia. A guy that they locked up very early on in the process, and therefore may have gotten a little less visibility down the road. Otherwise, he might have been a little higher rated recruit. Like, as you mentioned, a little bit outside of the top 50 running backs. But again, great breakaway speed, does a great job in between the tackles, very physical, kind of one-cut type of runner. A guy who played very well in the spring game. Like I said, he enrolled early, participated in spring practice, and we saw a little bit of him a few weeks back in the spring game. And so he's another guy that true freshman playing at that B-back position is not an overly common thing with Paul Johnson. Last year, obviously, Marshall did out of need, but historically it hasn't happened as much. Diedrich Mills, though, is a guy that I think definitely could work his way into that rotation. And then after those 2, you've got 2 more guys, Kervonte Benson, the redshirt freshman, and then also redshirt freshman Quade Weimerskirch in the running for named national champion. Quade, in particular, was a guy who was in line to play last year as well. He's a big physical guy. He's not as much of the speedy breakaway type, but there's a good chance that he'll be in there, especially in some of these short yardage, maybe situational type of things. as a little more of like a sledgehammer type rather than a breakaway, whereas Benson himself, a little smaller stature, but also very quick and a very physically talented guy that has some good breakaway speed from that position.
Right, Joey. Justin Thomas, of course, coming back to quarterback the team for a senior season. He makes it all go. But aside from the mainstays in Marshall and Lynch in particular, a lot of new guys to get acquainted with, and with all the complexities of the offense and the ball handling, definitely going to be a chore for him to get all these guys comfortable in the offense. So that should be an interesting situation, and also a priority in August as well.
Yeah, absolutely. That was a big issue last year, was B-backs not really knowing their assignments. A big part of their job is also pass protection. They're a traditional, more think of like a fullback role, maybe your more traditional big running back style. So they got to help out a lot in the blocking game. There's some aspects of the outside running game that they help block on as well. And so getting some of that experience back there, bringing back some of these guys for an extra, second season, hopefully we see some improvement there, because like you said, Justin Thomas struggled last year, but I don't think it was all Justin Thomas. I think he needed some help from the guys around him. And so hopefully this year they're able to provide that to him with a little more experience at the B-back position, among others, as you mentioned.
All right, Joey Weaver from the Rumble Seat gets a set on Georgia Tech personnel, the A-backs and the B-backs. All right, Joey, appreciate the time.
Thank you, Mark. Appreciate it.